Welcome to Circuit 42.
Circuit 42.
The one-stop location for all things geek. This episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Dragon's Lair San Antonio and Gotham Newsstand. Sit back, relax, and most importantly, enjoy another episode of Circuit 42.
Circuit 42.
Hello, and welcome to Circuit 42. I am with special guest.
I'm an idiot.
I don't think that's your real name.
No, my correct name is Angel Dunworth, but when I write comedy, I write under the pen name I'm an idiot.
Nice. That makes me happy. So, for those who don't know, those 5 people in the interwebs who don't know who are you and what do you do?
My name is Angel Dunworth. I am an author. I run a publishing company. I helped start 2 other publishing companies. But recently, I've been writing only comedies. I dropped the dark drama and picked up the dark comedy. And that's going much better.
Now, the great thing is, like, dark comedy, especially horror comedy, has been making kind of a comeback in all mediums. I mean, there was a time in the 80s where it was just huge. I mean, perfect example, while it's not a book, a movie, American Werewolf in London was a perfect example of that. And then it kind of fell off because people didn't seem to know how to really balance the darkness and the comedy. But now it's starting to come back again in a lot of different genres. What do you think of the way the genres kind of evolved and changed?
I think people just have become more open-minded, where they can absorb more. And I also think in this day and age, more people understand that a joke is just that. It's there to make you laugh. It's not there to change your spiritual world, but it can bring up your vibrations, and that can change everything. All you really need in this world is for one thing to go right, and then everything goes right.
Now, question: as a writer, now the funny thing is, like, I've talked to different writers before, different artists, and a lot of them say that they actually don't read too much into the actual genre that they write for. Now, is that the same for you, or are you a huge fan of the genre as a whole?
I love comedy. I usually write dark, depressing dramas. But when I read comedy. I love Palahniuk. I think Christopher Moore is like one of the greatest writers of our time, because no matter what's wrong, if I read something that makes me laugh, suddenly I feel better. So I am a huge fan of the genre.
Have you ever read any Good Omens or any of other Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett's comedy?
I love The Hogfather. My daughter's favorite book is Dark Omens. When that came out, though, I was still a little too close-minded to pick it up. It wasn't until, let's see, Moore came out with, it's not Secondhand Souls, it was his first one, and that was just an eye-opener for me. Why do I have to read dark, depressing things when I can actually read something that makes me laugh, that makes me feel better? But Terry Pratchett, I mean, he was a god in comedy. I mean, just look at how big this little series got.
Oh yeah, and even I still remember the games too that he actually wrote. Did you ever get a chance to play the PC games?
I'm sorry, what was the last question?
He actually wrote 2 PC games as well that were part of the Discworld universe.
Oh, I'm not much of a gamer myself, but I'm sure that if he contributed to it, it's just like Sendak contributing to David Bowie and Labyrinth and all of that, because once you're a force, you're a force.
Now, you mentioned, it's so funny, like, just kind of going off topic, because we never do that here. Ha 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 ha. Speaking of just putting humor into your work like that, I was showing a friend of mine one of Brian Froud's art books. It was one of his recent ones, and how he just puts all these little weird jokes, like you have a little troll just writing stuff in the book and saying, "Oh, these pages are hideous. These pages are trash. This page is wonderful, though." And of course, the page is wonderful is a picture of him, and the pages that are trash are pictures of the author.
Oh, that's lovely. Have you ever read a book? It's rather old, and it is a little bit off topic. It's a wonderful book called The Tale of Pooh.
I've not read it. I've heard it. Oh, wait, The Tale of Pooh?
Yes.
Yes. I haven't read it, but I know of it.
It's wonderful because the man's just keeps telling you how peaceful you're going to be, and then Winnie the Pooh comes in and messes it all up, and he has to start again. It's just a wonderful book because that would happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, this guy just gets his head stuck in honey pots like all day.
Absolutely. What else is there to do?
It's like I could be writing books, or I could have my head stuck in a honey pot. I'm gonna go honey pot.
Honey pot? I have no honey pot.
Well, then you have to write.
Yeah.
Then I guess you'll have to write books.
I guess so.
So, what are some of the books that you've read? What works were you particularly proud of in terms of your career?
As far as comedy,
Both.
I have written Real Life Dead Things, which is about two ghosts that have to change someone's life for the better, or they can't move on. I've written Happily Ever After Life, which is about a cursed coat rack and some zealous mice. And recently I've written Apocalypse Eventually, and I am so excited about that one. I think it's the best thing I've ever written, because comedy is actually a lot harder than drama. You have to put a punchline, but you also have to put a plot, and that can really bend your mind. So I'm very excited about that one.
That's pretty awesome. So, question: You mentioned that you were actually a publisher as well.
Yes, I do run a publishing company.
So how did that come about?
I'm not a one-man show.
Pardon?
I am not a one-man show. I have a staff, yes.
Now, question: How did you go from just being an author to actually being a full publisher?
Well, I've known a lot of publishers and I've known a lot of editors, and I thought, some of the publishers, even if they're indie, they're a little bit close-minded. They won't look at it if it's not a certain way, if it's not a certain amount, a certain number of words, or if it's a particular genre. And I've seen some pretty cutthroat things in this business, too. And I thought, it's only fair to give good writers a chance to get their work out there. You just never know what people are going to be interested in next.
That is very true. Like, how many writers have you published?
Let me see. 1, 2.
Sorry, I know that's a broad question. Well, approximately.
I think that to date we have 3, actually 4, if I get this last manuscript in. And we're looking at a 5th. The language barrier is a problem with that one. So, yeah, because it doesn't matter to us if you're American or international, but if it's not something that people can read and understand, that is a problem.
I know there's a comic artist named Humberto Ramos, and he's from Mexico, and he's become one of the biggest comic artists here in the States. And apparently one of his big hurdles was simply being understood, because his English was not that great when he first started drawing, and he was being published in comics when he was extremely young. So probably part of it for him was simply being understood and having people understand him.
Well, that's absolutely a huge thing, especially when you're reading. People want to read a book because they want to be entertained and they want to feel that they've learned something. They don't want to struggle with it, and they don't want to be preached to. If they wanted to be preached to, they'd be in a church. That's something that gets a lot of writers rejected. They get on their soapbox instead of trying to make it objective.
I think the writer who seems to have successfully had the best balance of that is probably Chuck Palahniuk.
Oh, I love his stuff.
Oh, right? And he does the perfect example. He's a perfect example of being able to, bring out his message and not have it interrupt the storytelling.
I think my favorite of all his books was Lullaby, though.
I've never got to read Lullaby.
I'm a little dark. I'm a little dark-sided, so that was like my favorite.
I still need to read Choke, because I read Fight Club and I saw the movie. I saw the movie of Choke, which I loved, and I haven't got to read the book yet. So that's actually one that I need to read.
Oh, the book is so much better than the movie. Once you read the book, you'll hate the movie.
Oh, that's unfortunate, because I love that movie, because it's just... I love the fact that Clark Gregg, this guy who seems so nice and so jovial whenever you see him, can be so fucking twisted.
Well, I mean, I think everyone has two sides to them.
Yep.
As you'll see in my comedies, that Miss Angel's a very nice lady until you get inside her mind, and then you should run. You should run very, very fast.
So, question for you: when did you first start writing, and what in your opinion, what is your favorite work that you've done?
When I first started writing, you're not gonna believe this. 2nd grade, I get called to the office. I go down to the office thinking I'm gonna get a spanking. I'm in trouble. They still spank you then. Oh, I'm in so much trouble. And I sit there in the principal's saying all this stuff, and I'm just looking at her, and I go back to my classroom, and I sit down, and everybody's clapping. I have no idea. I think I just got suspended, and they're just waiting for the end of the day. And the teacher said, you know that you won the essay contest on the frost, because we never have frost in Florida. Really? And they gave me a yo-yo, and I was just stunned. And I think that once you catch the writing bug, you just don't stop. So my favorite work, I have to say right now, is Apocalypse Eventually. I let my hair down. I just thought, if people are going to be offended, they were going to be offended anyway. If they want to laugh, then they're going to read it.
Exactly.
And they're going to enjoy it.
See, that's a great mentality, because I stopped worrying about people being offended a long time ago, and that actually the funny thing is that I used to have, even until recently, I used to have some issues that would be, they weren't exactly anxiety, but they could be compared to it. That's a good way to put it. But over the last couple of years, I basically stopped worrying so much, and that made it so much better, made it so much easier to do what I needed to do, both creatively and professionally.
Well, it is a blessing that, as young as you are, you found that. It took me till menopause to go, you know what? I can't write with freedom this way. And then I was able to really, really write.
See, and that's probably when you kind of came to your best creatively as well. Now, on the second question, actually, think about it. What is the first book that you wrote, and what is your favorite book that you've wrote?
The first book that I wrote for a publisher called Aaron Gopra, and that was, this is the first published book, Snapshots from Home, and that's for troubled teens. That's to open conversations between parents, and kids about things that might be bothering them. Because kids they don't want to talk to their parents about things. They're afraid they'll get in trouble, even if they're just asking a question. And they think that their parents fell to earth fully grown. It's not true. So that was my first book, and I actually have a website for that, which would be Streetlight Halo. Have a lot of links on there for kids. If they can't talk to their parents, they can go to those links. They can look the things up themselves, or the parents can also do the same thing. My favorite book that I wrote has to be Apocalypse Eventually, because I finally allowed myself to be the writer that I am. And I didn't worry if people didn't like it. So, that's my favorite, yeah.
That's really cool. And honestly, as soon as I heard that title, that's why I asked you about Terry Pratchett. Because it's like, Just from the title alone, I started thinking Terry Pratchett. And that's why I brought that up to you earlier.
Well, even though I haven't sat down and really read Terry Pratchett, that is my daughter's favorite author. So I know of every single thing he's ever written because she will tell me every 5 seconds, guess what? Yeah. She'll tell me the whole book and say, do you want to read it? Well, why? My daughter is a walking spoiler alert. She is, and she's wonderful.
So basically, don't bring up any movie that she's seen if you haven't seen it.
She only does that to me. She doesn't do it to other people.
Oh, okay. So, question. Well, we were talking earlier about about sources that people could have, especially teenagers, that they need somebody to talk to. Did you ever hear of a series called a YouTube series called Ask a Grown Man?
No, I haven't.
It's really cool. It's a series that has they brought on different celebrities from different walks of life. Like they've had people like Seth Rogen on there, John Hamm, Paul Rudd. They've had all these different people, and basically they tell people initially would send these questions to the creator of Ask Grown Men, and it was kind of the half joke of, like the strangest person to give these teenagers advice on things, just random grown-up actor. And they've had a bunch of people on there. Lucas Brothers were on there too, Dylan Sprouse, lots of interesting people. And they took that list and they gave it to them. And each of them actually did a video based off one of the questions. And they've started bringing in the other people too, and it's become both Ask a Grown Man and Ask a Grown Woman. Like Julia Louis-Dreyfus has been on there, Anthony Constantino has been on there, Terry Crews has been on there.
I'm going to have to check this out. This sounds really intriguing.
It's really cool, and like, was it? Yeah, like with John Hamm, I can't remember, but I believe John Hamm actually does have children. Where like someone like Seth Rogen's fairly young doesn't have kids yet. So he was both giving the advice as like both just a general person and as a husband and father as well.
Well, kids really aren't for everyone.
Exactly.
I think that everyone has their own individual path, but the only way you can walk your own path is to get off of everybody else's path and just focus on yours. Not that you should ignore your fellow man. You help when you can, but you should never become pushy, because if you earn it for them, then they don't earn it for themselves.
Yeah, you don't want to be Mary Worth, where you're just giving people advice whoever goes into your house. It's like you should totally buy 7 troll dolls. What the hell, Mary Worth? I didn't ask you anything. Well, you should. God, what was it on The Simpsons? Speaking of dark humor, the Mary Worth comic strip that was pulled, that the comic book guy has in his store, where she advises somebody to commit suicide. And it's like one of those quick little fucked up jokes where it's like, wait, what the hell did you just say? That makes the joke even better.
Young man, I think that you will love my book.
Because it's like, young man, you have a really screwed up sense of humor. Buy my book. Okay.
Absolutely buy a book. Buy a book if you love my writing. And if you hate my writing, buy a book for the guy who lets his dog crap on your lawn. Just buy a book.
So where can people find your book? Or books?
Right now, it's on Lulu.com. I will be signing books at half price on Broadway in San Antonio on Valentine's Day. And I haven't put it in stores yet, but I'm getting there. Right now, you can buy it in print online at Lulu or at CheshireGreenPublishing.com.
That is very cool. So with that, do you have any advice for anyone else trying to get into writing or anyone trying to get published?
The word no can be a teacher, but it should not be a preacher.
I like that.
So there's a lot of work and a lot of growing that goes into it's not the best thing you can write. That does not, however, mean throw it down and give up and walk away. If you're given that spark of madness, you are given it for a reason.
Yeah, and it's so funny. What is it? If you know the singer Tori Amos, her first album is absolutely terrible. Like, it's a complete mess. And then you look at everything she made afterwards, and it's like, I'm pretty sure she's one of those who's really glad she didn't give up because that first project was not very good.
Well, also you have to remember that taste is subjective. What's not for one person may be for another.
Yep. So, once again, before we bring the show to a close, is there anything else that you wanted to talk? Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
I would like to mention the book on Cheshire Grin Publishing for you youngsters that like Comic-Con and such. That my art director did called Imanganation. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Imanganation, is that correct?
Manganation, yeah.
And that is an adult coloring book, and the proceeds from that go to children with cancer.
That's
so
really
check
cool.
that out.
That's one of those things that's surprisingly become a trend, is the adult coloring books. Like, you've got a Bill Murray one, now they've done a Deadpool coloring book. Like, you just don't expect that.
Well, there may be a lot of adult coloring books. Very few have proceeds that go to children with cancer.
And it's called Manganation,
so I'm
right?
suggesting that one.
You said it's called Manganation?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That sounds really cool, actually. And people can find that on your website, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And where the I can talk today. So for the people listening, if they want to check out your work or the work of your various authors and Manganation, of course, what's the website? Where can they find it? One more time.
www.CheshireGrinPublishing.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the
You
show.
have a great rest of the night.
I will, and this brings us to the end of our newest episode. You have a great night, everyone.
You've been listening to Circuit 42, brought to you by Dragon's Lair San Antonio and Gotham Newsstand. Join us for our next episode. For all things geek.
Circuit 42.